Okay, here's a quick demo in regards to using the number 71 lap seam foot on the Bernina. If you notice, I do have a couple of settings. I do have a 9mm stitch plate. I also have the number 71 foot selected. And then also on my needle position, I do have it to the left one position. And the reason why I do that is because I like how the binding looks on both sides of the quilt when it's just that one position over. I have already started, but I really wanted to show you that I only use a couple of tools when I'm doing the binding. I do use the height adjuster, and then I also use one straight pin when I come to the corner. So other than that, I'm not pinning the binding on. So I have sewn the binding on the back side of the quilt already, and I am just letting it fall over onto the right side, so I haven't ironed it or anything. And as I sew, going pretty fast. I've got the same bobbin thread as I do my top thread, and I typically use the thread that matches the binding best. So I have a nice little maroon binding on. If I see that it's kind of walking over to the left a little bit, I will just kind of adjust it over. And the first time you do the binding, it's not going to be perfect, but of course, like anything that we do, the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. As I come here to the corner, I'm going to go ahead and remove the binding out of the lap seam. I'm making sure that I'm not tugging on the binding and pulling it inward. I'm making sure that it's nice and taut in the same path that it was. And I just take my pin there, and I make that nice corner that we love to see on bindings. And I'm just going to stick a straight pin right there. No, I'm not going to run over the pin when I sew. So as I get closer, I'm just going to make sure that that falls underneath there. I'm going to go ahead and remove this pin. And I typically just take a stitch one into where the fabric is folded over. Now as I turn the corner, I'm going to go ahead and lift my presser foot, and when I lower it, I'm going to go ahead and slide that fabric back into the lap seam. And if you notice my foot right now, it's kind of like ski tips up, so it's really, the machine's going to have a hard time getting that traction on that feed dogs pulling that fabric. And that's where the height adjuster comes into play for Bernina. I know that we all have these in our toolbox and we probably have never used them. Well, this is the time to get it out. And what you're going to do is you're going to put that on the back side of your presser foot. And now if you take a look at that presser foot, it's a nice even plane, and it's going to allow those feed dogs to pull that fabric evenly. And so we won't have those micro stitches. And once it's used, once I'm done with its use, I just put it off there to the right hand side because I'm going to need that on all four corners. Stitch a little bit more so I can take this out of the machine and let you guys see what that corner looks like. So if we take a look here, we've got the binding stitch that looks great. When I flip it over, it's in the same position on the right back side as it is the front side. And when I look at my corners, the corners are perfect. So that is how I use the number 71 foot. It's commonly known as the lap seam foot for doing the bindings on a Bernina.